There are bands that you listen to, and then there's bands that change the way that you hear music for the rest of your life, and Primus did that to me. They didn't just influence me, they rewired me as a drummer, as a bass player, as a songwriter, and as an artist. And if you're already a Primus fan, you know exactly what I mean. And if you're not, stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand why this band has held on to people like me for more than 30 years, and why people who love Primus tend to love them for life. Now, my story starts in a basement, and a loud one. It was 1991, my first and only year of university, and it was a rough year. I was a terrible student. I spent many afternoons by the 75-cent laundry machines in the basement of the dorm practicing my drums. I didn't realize the sound was traveling through the building's heating ducts, giving a free show to 500 of my classmates, but it was like a beacon for one specific guy in that dorm. So one afternoon, this guy called Keenan followed the noise, and he found me. And it turns out he was a bass player with this really funky personality. We jammed and it clicked immediately. His playing had personality and technical skill, and it felt like we had known each other for years. We only played music together that one time. He was a mysterious guy, but he said to me, "You ever heard of Primus?" I hadn't, so I scraped together $12 in coins and singles, and I went to the CD store and I picked up this album called Frizzle Fry. I looked at that bizarre claymation face on the cover and I thought, all right, let's see what this is. Now, let me nerd out for just a second, because this is where the psychology starts. The moment that you see that cover, your brain is already doing something interesting. It's reacting to distinctiveness. Your brain automatically remembers the one thing that stands out from everything else. That's the von Restorff effect. And whether they mean to or not, Primus has been using it since day one. And I didn't know it at the time. I just knew that the cover looked like something that wasn't trying to fit in, and I could totally relate to it. I put the CD in, I hit play, and Primus hit me back. Holy cow. If you're a drummer or a bassist, you know the feeling. Your brain lights up. You're not just hearing music, you're hearing possibility. You're hearing someone break the rules that you didn't even know were rules. Tim Alexander's drumming grabbed me immediately. It was technical without being stiff. His sound was tight and unique, playful but not silly, fearless without being chaotic. It was the kind of drumming that makes you sit up straight. And Les Claypool's bass wasn't supporting the song. No, not at all. It was actually completely leading the charge. And the guitar wasn't the hero. It was really the color and the texture and the atmosphere. I don't think I'd ever heard the bass guitar taking the leading role in a power trio before. This was something completely innovative. This is where the psychology kicks in again, because Primus triggers what's called the novelty response. Your brain loves unpredictability, and it loves patterns that almost make sense, but not quite, and it loves being surprised. Primus is built on that. I didn't know any of that at the time. I just knew I couldn't stop listening. And here's something I've learned over the years. Primus doesn't hit everyone the same way. Only certain people really understand this band, and you're probably one of them if you found this video. People who like complexity, people who like odd rhythms, people who like music that doesn't sit still. There's a reason behind that. Some people have a higher tolerance for complexity. Some people are drawn to things that break patterns, and some people like being challenged. Primus is a challenge, a fun one, a rewarding one. And if you're still watching this, you probably have that kind of a brain. You like things that don't fit neatly into categories. You like music that makes you think and feel at the same time. You like artists who don't apologize for being different. Now, Primus fans aren't casual. They're committed because the music asks something of you, and when you give it, the music gives back. After that first hit, Primus became almost like a litmus test for me. I was completely broke, but I found a way to buy all their music. I'd play them for people. Occasionally, some would light up, and some would look confused, and one guy even asked me if my stereo was broken. Now, that's identity sorting, another legit theory. The things that you love help you find your people. Primus helped me find mine. With bandmates I take on through the 1990s and early 2000s, we'd bond over them. We grooved on their songs, we listened on repeat. We tried to understand how they made something so strange feel so fluid. Primus didn't just influence my playing. They influenced my taste. They influenced the kind of musicians that I wanted to play with, and they influenced the kind of music that I wanted to make. The first time hearing them was magical. Now, let me take you to the moment that sealed it for me. 1995, a few years after I discovered Primus, Tales from the Punch Bowl had just come out. My bandmates and I drove to Red Rocks, and we got there early enough to hear the sound check. The sun was still high, the baking summer canyon walls were heat hazing, and we were walking up the long path toward the entrance when Tim Alexander's drums suddenly started echoing through the canyon. It was the sound check that happened at just the right moment. Every hit bounced off the stone like the place was answering him back. It wasn't so much loud as it was electric. I mean, we stood there for 15 minutes listening to Tim Alexander warm up, and it felt better than most concerts that I'd ever been to. This is ritual. When you hear something powerful in a place that feels ancient, your brain treats it like a ceremony, like something meaningful is about to happen. It was an experience that can't be replicated. By the time we reached the entrance, I already knew that night was going to be something I'd remember, and I was right. When Primus walked out, the entire amphitheater leaned forward at the same time, like the place had its own gravity. Les, Larry, Tim, locked in, explosive, loose, dangerous in the best possible way. I mean, it didn't feel like a show. It felt like a gathering, like a tribe or a ritual. It's collective effervescence. There's something about being in a crowd that amplifies emotion, creating a sense of belonging and purpose and shared identity. 10,000 of us all locked into this specific band for the same reasons, yet in a place as magical as Red Rocks. It's rare, it's powerful, and once you feel it, you never forget it. I want to say something else about this band. Primus has a sense of humor that doesn't behave like normal humor. It's not punchlines, and it's not winking at the camera. It's more like they built a world where everything is just slightly off center, and they're inviting you to walk around in it for a while. The first time I saw the video for Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, I remember sitting there thinking, I don't know who even approved this, but I'm glad that they did. I mean, it had this strange energy that felt both homemade and completely intentional. Claymation, odd angles, a storyline that didn't care if you understood it. It was funny, but not in the way that asked you to laugh. It was funny because it existed. Now, there's a science behind that. Absurdity disarms people, and when something is strange in a way that feels confident, your brain pays closer attention. You lean in, you want to understand the rules of the world that you just stepped into. Primus builds those worlds. They don't explain them, they just open the door and they let you wander. Now, Les Claypool's persona plays a big part in that. He's a virtuoso who behaves like someone who wandered onto the stage by accident and decided to stay. And that combination creates a connection that feels personal. You don't feel like he's performing for you so much. You feel like he's letting you in on something. You know, most bands try to be cool. Primus is authentic and unapologetic and completely weird, and that's why they're cool. And there's another reason why Primus sticks with you. The bass tone is instantly recognizable. The rhythms are puzzles that your brain wants to solve. The unpredictability keeps you alert, and the distinctiveness makes the songs impossible to confuse with anything else. Your brain doesn't just hear Primus, it chases Primus. And that's why you can listen to the same track for decades and still find something new. As you can imagine, Primus influenced more artists than people realize, and I don't mean to say like those artists sound like Primus, because most of them don't, but what they took wasn't the tone or the style, they took the attitude and the freedom and the idea that you could build a band around the rhythm section and let the guitar and the vocals orbit around it. Take Tool, for example. I mean, you can hear Primus in the way they treat rhythm like architecture instead of background. The bass isn't just holding the floor, it's shaping the room. And the drums aren't just keeping time, they're telling a story. You know, Tool never sounded like Primus, but the blueprint is there. Rage Against the Machine took something too. Not the sound, the posture, really. The idea that the bass can be the engine and the guitar can be the spark instead of the other way around. Primus made that feel possible. And how about Deftones? They absorbed the space and the atmosphere and the willingness to let a groove breathe without filling in every corner. That's a Primus lesson. Let the rhythm section talk. Let the guitar paint around it. System of a Down took on the unpredictability and the sharp turns. You know, the sense that the song might jump sideways at any moment and somehow still land on its feet. Now that's Primus DNA. The Mars Volta took the chaos. The controlled kind. The kind where the band sounds like it's about to fly apart, but it never really does. Primus showed that you can be wild and precise at the same time. Korn took the bass-forward aggression. You know, the idea that the low end could be the personality of the band instead of the afterthought. They've said it themselves. Primus opened that door. There are so many more. Bands that don't sound anything like Primus, but they carry the fingerprint, like the rhythmic confidence and the willingness to be strange, the refusal to apologize for it. All those bands I just mentioned, if you haven't heard some of them, you need to check them out. This is how influence works. It doesn't always show up as imitation. Sometimes it shows up as permission. Primus gave a whole generation of musicians permission to build their music from the bottom up, to let the bass lead, to let the drums be a priority, and to let the guitar support instead of dominating, to be weird without asking for approval. Now, if you're a younger person, you might not hear Primus in the bands that you love, but trust me, they're in there. Somewhere in the way the bass moves, somewhere in the way the drums push against the groove, somewhere in the way that the song refuses to sit still. Primus didn't just influence musicians, they influenced the way that musicians think. And Primus didn't just influence me, they shaped me as a drummer, as a bass player, as a songwriter, and as a producer. They gave me permission to break the rules and trust my instincts and to find people who wanted to make music that didn't sound like everything else. And I'm thankful for that, deeply. Understanding Primus is understanding the roots of modern musical weirdness. And by the way, as of the time of the making of this video, they just released a new EP called A Handful of Nugs, and it's fantastic. Even though Tim Alexander left the band, their new drummer picked up with his own style, yet he maintains the integrity that Primus fans are going to demand. Primus fans are built different because Primus builds different fans, They don't just give you music, they give you identity, they give you freedom, and they give you a tribe. And if you're still here, you're probably one of us. And hey, Primus sucks.